There's no other way to say it. The Hyundai Veloster SR Turbo is a Frankenstein car. It seems to have been made up of bits of other cars and is, let's face it, a bit weird. So it makes you wonder, what's it for?
Now, I do accept that calling this a Frankenstein car is a very lazy comparison, but I think it's quite fair because there's all these bits everywhere. But unlike Mary Shelley's creation, this works.
The front appears to have been pinched from an Aston, the A-pillar and roofline has a bit of Nissan GT-R about it, and the rear has more than a hint of Renault Sport Megane. The rear glass split across the middle is reminiscent of the super fun 80s Honda CRX.
Hyundai have done a brave thing with this car because they've pitched it right into the battle with the GT86. Now, I'm not going to pretend this is as good as the GT86, it just isn't. But it's got a lot of things that make up for the fact that it isn't rear-wheel drive and that it isn't a Focus Sports coupe. It's got a really good, strong, punchy engine. It's the 1.6 GDI turbo that's going to be found in a whole bunch of quickish Kias and Hyundais. And it's quite muscular in the mid-range. It's pretty hopeless off-boost, but once you've got it spinning, it's really good fun. The only downside is that there's quite a lot of torque steer, and I'm talking by modern standards. This isn't an Alpha 33 that's going to sling you into the scenery when you put your foot down, but it is fighting, and that would be okay if the traction control system wasn't so brutal. With the traction off, when you're really going for it, first to second you get a fun little chirp, but you do it with the traction control on and the fun just stops. It just...
Underneath and inside there are bits about the Hyundais. The dashboard and overall layout is familiar to anyone who has been in the new i30 and it works just as well. In here you get sat-nav, reversing camera, climate control, cruise control and a surprisingly pumping stereo. The sunroof splits the glass roof and, unfortunately, introduces a lot of noise into the cabin over about 40 k's.
The other thing I don't like about the driving experience is the throttle is not very snappy at all, and that's where you really realise this isn't a properly sporty car, because when you put your foot down to get the engine to rev, particularly on a downshift, it's quite reluctant to pick up the revs, and so you find yourself prodding it early and hard.
While it stays very flat, the front suspension just isn't up to it. In price, this car is close to where the Honda Civic Type R and the Renault Sport Clio used to be, but the much cheaper Swift Sport is more fun to drive. Basically, the Veloster is a bit lifeless. But, and this is big, this car doesn't go after any of these hot hatches. It is in fact a very practical car for what it is and for the people who buy it. It's got a decent boot and you can get in and out of it without fuss and get two actual adults in the back by the extra rear door.
Quite unusual to have a sporty looking car that can double as a normal family car. I mean, you could get away with this as an only family car. Okay, teenagers no, but younger kids, absolutely.
So what's it for? By combining arresting looks with hatchback livability, it makes you feel good about owning a Hyundai. What Hyundai has done with the Veloster is to replace the Celica.